Let's turn now again to Lincoln Mitchell, national political correspondent for the New York Observer. Was there a strategy to the Republican Party trying to have so many southern states so early?
Well, one part of the strategy is you want to get this over with, right? They were very concerned about a primary that would drag on and on. I think right now they would be very happy with a primary that would drag on and on, because that way they could stop Donald Trump. But originally, let's get a lot of states to go early. We'll end this thing by mid-March. You know, southern states are powerful because they speak, they really is where the base of the party is most represented. So that was part of the strategy. There's always been this kind of traditional Super Tuesday southern state. So there's a history of that as well.
Let's talk about Jeff Sessions. I realized this is a couple of days ago when he came, Senator Jeff Sessions, when he came out to support Donald Trump. But what does that say about the state of, what is that indicative of the state of Alabama?
Well, it's indicative of a couple of things, right? There are politicians who are out there looking around saying this Trump movement is real. First of all, he's going to be the nominee, and maybe we'll just rally around him. And if I'm one of the people to do that earlier, I'm going to be okay. But secondly, it's maybe I should be thinking about potentially being primaried in the future. And that's a real problem. I mean, one of the bigger picture problems affecting American politics today is not that Republican, particularly in the Senate, but in both houses, but particularly in the Senate, it's not that they're worried about re-election. Many of them come from solid red states, and they're not making decisions based on will I get re-elected. They're making decisions based on will I get renominated, which means that they're really constantly appealing to the most conservative base of their Republican support. And that may be what this is about also. I'm not exactly sure when Sessions is up, but I think that's part of the calculation.
And Majority Leader Senator Mitch McConnell has in fact said, do what you have to do for yourself and for your local race, if that's what you need to do. Right,
which would, generally speaking, you would think that's his way of saying you don't have to be with Trump. What he's really saying there is if you feel you have to be with Trump, we can live with that. But it just speaks to how concerned and how unenthusiastic the Republican leadership in Washington is about Trump.
All right, Lincoln, thank you very much. Stay with us. We have much more to talk to you about. In Georgia, a group of black students were ejected from a Trump rally by the Secret Service. These 30 students were silently protesting at Valdosta State University at this event on Monday. The Secret Service agents said Trump requested their removal.
We just really wanted to watch the rally, and to get kicked out because we're a group of black people is really crazy. It shows you how racist our own school is.
A Trump campaign spokesperson denied that Trump or his campaign had anything to do with that incident. But there's another incident to tell you about, a conflict at a different Trump rally at Radford University in Virginia. The presidential candidate was interrupted several times, including by a young female protester.
Are you from Mexico? Are you from Mexico? Huh? Are you smack in the middle of my punchline?
It's not the only issue. The Secret Service is now investigating what happened when one of its agents scuffled with a Time magazine photographer who stepped over the press line. The photographer said this in a statement: "I regret my role in the confrontation, but the agent's response was disproportionate and unnecessarily violent." I am joined again by Lincoln Mitchell, national political correspondent for the New York Observer. Republican leadership is taking note of these things, taking note also of what's played out the last few days when Donald Trump has gone back and forth on whether or not to disassociate himself with the endorsement of former Klansman David Duke. And this is what Paul Ryan, Speaker of the House Paul Ryan, had this to say.
Today I want to be very clear about something. If a person wants to be the nominee of the Republican Party, there can be no evasion and no games. They must reject any group or cause that is built on bigotry. This party does not prey on people's prejudices. We appeal to their highest ideals.
Okay, so tension, confrontations at Trump rallies. The situation with David Duke, what is party leadership thinking here? Speaker Ryan looked pretty upset.
Party leadership is thinking we're going to carry 5 states in November. We're going to lose all these down ballot races. Party leadership is also thinking that this guy on many issues is actually a centrist and isn't a real conservative. There's a big part of the Republican establishment anger about Trump that is not what you hear on the left, which is, wow, this guy's dangerous, he's scary, but hey, he's not a real conservative. So they're thinking that. I think these comments need to be taken into context, right? There are other candidates in this race who have support from candidates who say horrific things about LGBT people.
You can't control who endorses you.
Well, no, more than that, or about Jews for that matter. No. This is a party where those views are, in fact, welcome. The problem with David Duke is that he is more well-known and more visible than some weird pastor somewhere who supported Ted Cruz. But to say this party doesn't prey on people's prejudices, that is a noble sentiment by Paul Ryan. I wish that there was more empirical evidence to suggest that was true. And if the Republican Party doesn't like that the man most likely to be nominated is enthusiastically supported by someone like David Duke, then they need to think about how they got to this point, rather than saying, Donald Trump is the only problem, we had nothing to do with it.
All right, and to be clear, I'm sure the Republican Party would disagree with your analysis on that, but thank you, though, very much. Thank you, Lincoln Mitchell. A reminder, we'll have complete coverage of the Super Tuesday results starting tonight at 7 Eastern right here on Al Jazeera America. Up next, a showdown over security. Apple and the FBI go before Congress in the fight over unlocking the San Bernardino shooter's phone. And President Obama sits down with Republican leaders in an attempt to persuade them to fill the empty Supreme Court seat.
Super